as Ukrainian forces continue to liberate occupied territories in the country's east, despite yet another barrage of air attacks across the country. Russian President Vladimir Putin has instituted martial law in 4 of Ukraine's regions, some of which are under the control of Russian troops. On October 19, Putin claimed that he had signed a decree declaring martial law in Ukraine's Donetsk, Luhansk, Kherson, and Zaporizhzhya, all of which Russia illegally annexed last month at an online session of the Security Council. Although he stated that his order would take effect at midnight on October 20, he did not immediately provide a description of the actions that would be taken under martial law. His decree gives agencies working in law enforcement 3 days to submit specific proposals. The bundle of moves, which come almost 8 months into the conflict sent off by the Kremlin in late February, denoted the most recent heightening by Putin to counter a progression of losses Ukrainian powers starting from the beginning of September. The move ensures that more Russians, already enraged by a military mobilization announced last month, will feel the war's effects more deeply in their own lives by extending the decree beyond Ukraine. An advisor to the head of the Ukrainian presidential office, Mikhailo Podolyak, referred to Putin's action as a pseudo-legalization of looting of Ukrainians' property. Ukraine will not be affected in any way by this. Soon after Putin declared martial law in the 4 Ukrainian regions, Podolyak tweeted, "We continue the liberation and deoccupation of our territories." During his speech at the White House, Joe Biden stated that Putin is attempting to persuade Ukraine to give up. The fact that it appears that Vladimir Putin has no other option but to brutalize individual Ukrainian citizens and attempt to intimidate them into giving in reflects my belief that Putin finds himself in an extremely difficult situation. They will not do that, Biden stated. Vedant Patel, a deputy spokesman for the U.S. State Department, stated earlier that Russia's claim to the regions was illegitimate and that the declaration of martial law was a last-ditch effort. Putin's move came as the Russia-introduced head of Ukraine's southern Kherson locale said the departure has begun of a huge number of regular citizens and Moscow-named authorities notwithstanding a Ukrainian military development. Over the next 5 to 6 days, according to Vladimir Saldo, between 50,000 and 60,000 civilians will leave 4 towns on the west bank of the Dnieper River in an organized gradual displacement. Saldo stated that Moscow's administration in the city of Kherson would also evacuate. On the Dnieper riverbank, footage of a number of people waiting for boats was shown on Russian television, but it was not immediately clear how many were leaving. A war crime is when an occupying power forces the civilian population to be moved or deported from territory it controls. Saldo made the remarks after the new commander of Russian forces in Ukraine, General Sergei Surovikin, said that the situation in the southern city of Kherson is difficult, and that residents who are facing Ukrainian bombardment should be evacuated. The General Staff of the Ukrainian military reported on July 5 that intense fighting continues in the Bakhmut, Lyman, Avdiivka, and Mariinka areas of the Donetsk region, adding that 40 combat clashes had occurred within the region in the previous 24 hours. Our troopers keep on directing hostile activities south and north of the city of Bakhmut, settling in themselves at the accomplished limits, the military said in its most recent update. It added that Russian artillery shelled more than 15 settlements, including Vasyukivka, Markov, Bonanivka, and Kromov. The military additionally said that the Russian armed force has escalated observation and harm exercises in the line regions close to the town of Siversky. In the meantime, the governors of Russia's Kursk and Belgorod said that Ukrainian forces opened fire on their regions across the border in the early hours of July 5, but that no casualties have been reported. The armed forces of Ukraine are firing on the town of Valuiki. Belgorod Governor Vyacheslav Gladko said on Telegram early on July 5. air safeguard framework worked. Yet there is obliteration on the ground. Gladkov added. The governor of the Kursk region, Roman Starovoy, said in a separate statement that a school and a private house were damaged when the village of Tatkino caught fire. The Kursk region is north of Belgorod and also borders the Ukraine. While Russian-installed representatives accused Kyiv of targeting a hospital, the Ukrainian military claimed late on July 4 that it had destroyed a formation of Russian forces in Makiivka in the Donetsk region, adding that the attacks had killed 1 civilian and injured 36. In a statement released late on July 4, the Ukrainian military stated, another formation of Russian terrorists in the temporarily occupied Makiivka ceased to exist due to the effective fire impact of the units of the defense forces. Denis Puchilin, the leader of Ukraine's Donetsk region who was installed by Russia, claimed that Ukrainian forces had carried out fierce attacks on a hospital complex and residential areas in Makiivka. In areas of intense fighting, RFE/RL is unable to confirm either side's claims of developments on the battlefield. On July 4, Ukraine's National Security and Defense Council Secretary, Alexei Danilov, stated that his nation's counteroffensive against Russian forces has been particularly fruitful in recent days. Ukraine's defense forces are completing the primary task at this stage of active hostilities. The greatest amount of damage to the Russian army's personnel, equipment, fuel depots, military vehicles, command posts, artillery, and air defense forces, Danilov wrote on Twitter.